Here we gonna go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Uprise podcast on a Friday evening. We're going to be talking about how the Blazers can't beat a good team today. We talked about it a bit on our post-game show last night, but we'll go a little bit more into depth. We'll maybe add some things that we haven't talked about. I don't know. We're going to freestyle this podcast as always. It'll probably be a little bit shorter of a podcast today, but we're going to start off with picking games against the spread like we always do. I got to pull up my live stream on my phone, and then we'll be good to go.
What's up, everybody?
What's going on? So we got games 5 p.m. and later. I know it's 5:20, so some of those games have already started, but we got a late start today. But I think we're ready to go. We'll also talk a bit about Iman Shumpert, and whether or not the Blazers should sign him. Maybe Kenneth Faried. Maybe some moves that the Portland Trail Blazers can make. I don't know. We'll figure things out. I got to fix my lighting situation real quick. Okay, there. That's better. What's up, Randall Pink Floyd? Hey, they beat the Mavericks. Yeah, that's the only winning team I think they've beaten all season long.
That was back on October 27th?
I know. That was the game Collins got hurt. That's how long ago that was. So, would love to get a win against a winning team for once. I guess the Suns might kind of feel like that, given how much hype they've had early on this season. That would be on the road. But anyway, let's jump into our picks against the spread. We'll just pick the majority. If it's 3 people voting, then that's fine. If it's 1 person voting, that's fine.
All right, let's get to these 5 o'clock games real quick before they get too deep. Charlotte is in Chicago, and Chicago is 7-point favorites.
I'm going to take Charlotte there.
I'm also going to take Charlotte with my theory about crappy teams. Oh, the Bulls have been playing a little better.
I don't think Charlotte's that bad, though. Charlotte's slept on.
Yeah.
Devontae Graham is like their new Kemba, man. He's killing it. Anyway, what's next?
Next up, we got Milwaukee in Memphis tonight, and Milwaukee is 12-point favorites. And it looked like Giannis was probable. I haven't seen if he was for sure playing, but...
All right, yeah, I'm taking Milwaukee. Picking Milwaukee, no matter what the spread is, has been good for me in past games.
Yeah.
We got Milwaukee for chat. Chat, you got to pick the first game. It was Charlotte in Chicago, and Chicago was favored by 7 points. So who you got, Bulls or Hornets for that first game? We got 2 votes for Milwaukee's second game, so we're going to roll with that.
Okay.
We're going to make this segment fast. We got 5 games, so.
All right.
Got Hornets game 1. Alrighty.
Then we got... Clippers are in Minnesota, and Clippers are favored by 5.
I'm going to take the Clippers. Minnesota's been struggling. The Clippers, even if they're missing Kawhi or Paul George or whatever, you never know with that team. Even if they're missing one of them, I still have the Clippers. That's an easy pick right there.
Yep, I'm taking the Clippers as well. Golden State at Utah. Utah's 13.5-point favorites.
What do you got there?
I'm going to take Golden State. It's a lot of points.
Yeah.
I feel kind of safe getting 13.
I'm going to take Utah there.
Okay.
Golden State's been bad.
Yeah.
Clippers for chat for the last pick.
Okay.
Yo, shout out Dame Dalla. $24 donation said, "This is my part for the rap. You better pitch in." That's 24. What he's talking about is if I get $100 in donations in one live stream, I'll drop a rap song. And the reason it's so much is because I don't want to embarrass myself, as I've said before. But that's the biggest donation I've ever gotten. Maybe it would have been a little smarter to save it for a post-game stream if you try to get it up to 100, because I don't know how many people are going to hop in here. But that's good for me. $24 donation is insane, man. Thank you.
Chat's going to
anyway.
Utah.
Yep.
And then the other game tonight is the Knicks in Sacramento. Sacramento's 8.5-point favorites.
I'm going to take Sacramento. The Knicks suck.
I'm taking Sacramento as well. So we only had one different game today, which is fine.
We'll see the chat picks for that. Chris Stevens says, Chris Stevens says, you're going to have to pay me to listen to Tory rap. Yeah, where do you think that $100 is going? It's going to you, Chris. Just so you can listen to me. We got Randall Pink Floyd said Sacramento State. Um, so we're gonna roll with Sac. And alrighty, that was a quick opening segment. Dame Dollar says, I don't care about the rep. I want to support my favorite YouTuber. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, bro. It means a lot, man. I'm glad to be your favorite YouTuber. Honestly. Chris Stevens says, I'll split it with you. All right, man. So, anyway. I mean, like, I'm trying to... Me and Eric had a little bit of trouble, like, planning things for this podcast because there's really nothing new in Blazerland. And we went and streamed for 2 hours on the post-game show last night, so we already talked about a ton of different topics. I actually think we had a really good post-game show last night. I thought that might have been my best like post-game show in terms of like going on without like stuttering, messing up words, just going on like a long like monologue, 20-minute monologue. I thought I was proud of myself for that one. I listened to it back. I was proud of myself because I always try and like find ways that I can improve. And so usually I'm pretty critical of myself, but I thought that was pretty good. And then you hopping in there, I thought we were good. I thought that might have been our best post game stream, just in terms of like quality talking about the basketball. In terms of the banter, we didn't have that classic banter as we always do, But usually that's after wins, not losses. That's the reward for the Blazers getting a win. And they didn't get a win last night to the Denver Nuggets because they can't be a good team. What's going on, Terry Stotts? Terry Stotts has entered the chat. Dave Gibson said, great show. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, so if you guys want to watch that post-game stream, I thought it was a pretty good one. Might be an entertaining one to watch after the fact. But I just read what you typed in chat. Yeah, I don't think this channel's for Terry Stotts. But maybe it'll open Stotts' eyes a little bit.
You can learn some stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, we can talk about what I titled this stream after. Blazers can't beat a winning team. We already talked about reasons on that post-game stream. I don't know if there's anything that we missed in terms of that you wanted to talk about. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but
what was that? The post-game show?
Oh, yeah, I was asking you if there was anything we missed in the post-game show. Any points you wanted to make about the team? Anything that concerned you? Maybe something that has you optimistic? Anything that we missed in the post-game show that
I'm not really optimistic about anything right now, other than they can't really play much worse than they've been playing. I mean, even you thought they played well offensively last night, but
I didn't think they played a good brand of basketball.
Yeah.
I just thought they made shots, which I said as I opened that up.
Yeah, it's just their offense has been very mediocre the last few weeks, even when we were winning games. I just saw on Twitter something that last 2 weeks we've been 18th in offensive efficiency over the last 2 weeks. So
it's not good
great.
enough.
Yeah. And it's frustrating when you get a performance like Whiteside's last night and you're still not efficient. You still only score 99 points when your big scores a career high 33 off really good efficiency.
And outplays the opposing big, who was an All-NBA guy last year, who's one of the top 3 centers in the league, and Whiteside outplayed Jokic. It still wasn't good enough. So yeah, that was frustrating for sure. It's hard to find reasons for optimism because the optimism I've found is just like, okay, our schedule is going to lighten up and we do have an easy stretch coming up. But more and more, man, I'm worried about like, okay, what can this team do to beat good teams? They can beat bad teams, but they can't get a win to save their life against a good team. Now, to be honest, a lot of these good teams we haven't played at home. I don't think we've played a team with a winning record at home since we acquired Carmelo Anthony. Other than the Lakers. Other than the Lakers, we haven't played a team with a winning record. a lot of the teams that we've played with winning records are like the best teams in the NBA. You know, we haven't had many games against a team like Denver, or teams kind of like in that range. You know, we played the Bucks on the road. We've played the Clippers twice. We've played the Lakers. That's pretty much the winning teams we've been playing lately. That's why I thought that Denver game was a good like litmus test for the Blazers, because it was a team that had been struggling but was still a winning team in a tough place to play. And if Portland played, you know, good, if they picked it up defensively, rebounded, and played a good brand of offensive ball, that's a game they could have definitely won. They failed the litmus test, though.
Yeah.
They failed that test. It wasn't what I wanted to see out of the team, especially defensively, especially boxing out. Just, we got to work on the fundamentals, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on the next few post-game streams. I'm going to be focusing on the fundamentals. Are we boxing out? You know, we might not give up many offensive rebounds, but that doesn't mean necessarily that we're doing a good job boxing out. We got to do a better job boxing out consistently game by game. Mm-hmm. Are we moving the ball? Are we cutting? You know, or is our offense stagnant? Are we in the right position defensively? Are we helping when appropriate and not over-helping when we shouldn't be helping at all? Like, are we rotating defensively? Are we communicating? Because this is something I didn't say in the post-game stream last night. All right, maybe we talked about it a little bit, but I just don't think the defensive communication is where it needs to be. Just from what I see out there on the floor, seems like guys are surprised when they get screened. Seems like
that's been a problem all year, I think.
Yeah, like Melo was vocal when he got here, but I feel like he's not as vocal as he was. I just feel like we don't have anybody who's super vocal defensively, like stuff like that, man. That's why I don't buy the injury excuses. That's why I've been calling out media members on Twitter lately, because I keep saying it's injuries. And it's like I don't see how the guys we have on the floor, I don't see how our lack of talent due to injuries makes it so we can't do fundamental things.
And I talked about this last night, but my main problem with the team right now is the complete lack of effort I see. And you don't get killed on the boards if you're giving maximum effort and being in the right position. Like you said, fundamentally boxing out. You get killed on the boards when you're standing around watching and you let Will Barton go in between four of you and rip a rebound out of your center's hand and lay it in for an easy 2 points, you know? Like that kind of stuff. It's one thing if it happens every once in a while, but when there's injuries, a lack of talent, and a lack of effort, like you can't have all three of those things happening at the same time. So the players that are healthy and playing, I want to see them leave it all on the floor. And I don't feel like that's happening right now. I feel like they're just going through the motions. They think against bad teams they can just show up and win, which they probably can most games. But against a team like Denver, they're not going to have a chance if they're not flying around, making sure they're crashing the boards and getting every loose ball, diving on the floor, playing with some passion and some urgency to want to win these games. I mean, Dave even talked about it a few days ago about needing to come out with more urgency. And it's hard to tell against the Knicks. They played well against them, but they suck. So, like, where's that urgency against a good team, you know? It's just frustrating. I don't see them fighting and scrapping to play hard when that's exactly what they need to be doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, Dame says it in interviews after games. He's like, we're not coming out with enough energy. He's basically like in a nice way pointed that out multiple games, and it's like, okay, why aren't we coming out with energy? Why can't we come out with more energy? Why does it have to be such a conscious decision for you guys to play with energy? Because like Montrezl Harrell, it's not a conscious decision for him to go out there and play with the spark, to play with energy. That's just what he does. That's who he is. He's an energetic big man. He goes out there and he plays his ass off. Why does it have to be such a conscious decision for this roster? And honestly, like, is that a problem with a lack of motivation from the coaching staff? Is that a problem with just the type of guys we have on our team? You know, we don't have a guy who provides us a spark energetically. Like, we don't have hustle guys. We don't have an Ed Davis type of guy this year. We don't have a Zach Collins who was kind of becoming that guy. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is, but yes, it's frustrating to see this team come out here and not give what I feel like is 100% effort, and they can't afford to do that right now.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I'm not saying they're not trying. I mean, that's not it. It's just they. It's almost like they feel sorry for themselves, and they're using the injuries and roster situation to justify them not winning instead of trying to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's just frustrating to me as a fan. And I'm not saying that they should have won or gone into Denver and beat that team, but at the same time, I want to leave a game feeling like, you know what, this team tried their best and it just wasn't good enough. There's too many injuries, too much lack of talent. But like I haven't left a single game this year feeling like we lost that game because we aren't talented enough. Maybe the Laker game, because when they're healthy, they're pretty tough. We don't really match up well with Davis and LeBron. We don't have the guys to guard them well with our defensive schemes. But like other than that, I haven't had a single game where it's like, you know what, if we played our best, we could absolutely play, and we lost. No big deal, right?
Yeah, you can play well in a loss, and I can't think of a loss where we've played well. That's the problem. I feel like a lot of people think that we refuse to acknowledge that injuries are an issue or could be hurting this team, you know what I mean? Which we've never said. I've said that, okay, yeah, it would, having Collins out hurts, having Hood out hurts, having Nurkic out, if we had Nurkic, we'd be good. I just don't like making that an excuse for things that it shouldn't be an excuse for, like us not passing the ball, us not cutting, us not rotating right defensively, us not being in the right position defensively, us not boxing out. Like I said on that post-game stream, I know Trevin said he wanted me, or Trayvon said he wanted me.
It's Trevin.
Trevin. No, I think it's Trayvon.
No, he said one time I called him Trayvon and you called him Trevin, but you're right.
Oh yeah, see you messed me up. I blame you.
Yeah.
But no, you said he wanted me to summarize it. That was the thing. It's like fundamentals like that we're struggling with. And in the media, guys on Twitter, you say, well, we don't have 3 or 5 starters, injuries. It doesn't stop us from doing the fundamentals of basketball. You'd expect a high school team to do those things. You'd expect a high school team playing against an NBA team to try to do the fundamentals. You know what I mean? The fundamentals are like you learned early. Obviously, high school team against an NBA team, high school team's going to get absolutely murdered, absolutely crushed.
Right.
But high school teams, they still try and box out. They still try and, provide help. Like, that's things that high school teams do. And that's the thing that the NBA team isn't doing the NBA isn't doing the fundamentals that you'd demand out of a high school team. I guess that's my point.
And there was a play last night where I think it was Gary Harris had a wide open 3 in the corner. Mm-hmm. And he stood there for like 2 seconds, lined up a shot it, hits the front rim. We have 4 guys under the basket, all going for the rebound, just standing there watching the ball come off the rim, right to Jokic, who kicks it back out to Harrison, who makes the second one, right?
Yeah.
And it's like stuff like that where if they simply just – because Scott was standing behind Jokic and Whiteside was in front of him, if they both just like box him out since he was the only one going there, he doesn't get that rebound. And
if somebody gives a little bit of effort and runs at Harris, even though it's late, they'd be in position on the backside of Jokic to get the rebound that kind of went over their heads, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's just stuff like that. They just put themselves in tough positions due to giving up offensive rebounds.
And you pointed this out many times where they, especially on long rebounds, you don't want to all run underneath the basket and just stand there, because if the ball comes off, none of you are in position to get the rebound. And it's almost to the point where we might as well not even try to rebound. We should just have guys cherry picking, because we're not even getting rebounds anyway, So,
True.
So every once in a while we can just throw it down for an easy lay-in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just while we're talking about this, I'm just thinking about how ridiculous it is that we're talking about we gotta box out. We gotta box out with an NBA team. Like, this conversation should not be happening. It shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be having this conversation right now because it shouldn't be something that's such an issue with this team literally being allergic to boxing out. This team's allergic to boxing out.
And
Uh,
between
it's
that
so
and
sad.
the lack of awareness off the ball on defense,
Yeah.
it's happening with every player on the team at least once a game, just about, where they lose their guy on the backside rotation, or they help too much when they shouldn't have, or they get stuck between not helping and not staying on your guy. Like, and just details between that and not boxing out correctly combined for the reason why we're struggling on defense. Like, if you just eliminate some of those possessions and make them make a tough shot instead of getting a wide open three or something like that, like, those are the difference between winning and losing ball games. And
Mm-hmm.
So First P says he disagrees about the energy being the Blazers' problem. And I'm not saying that energy is their problem. I'm saying when you have all these other problems, you can still control how hard you play, your effort level, and all that stuff. So, like, the fact that the energy is not being ramped up when they're struggling is concerning to me.
There's just no sense of urgency,
Yeah.
and Stotts and Dame after postgame stream says, "Oh, we're not gonna panic. We're not gonna, you know, be upset with this. We're 10-16, but we'll turn it around." 10 games ago they said, "Oh, we're gonna turn it around." 20 games ago they said, "Oh, we're gonna turn it around." Like, that's been the narrative all season long. We're not gonna panic. We're gonna turn around. It's game 26. We're 10-16. Okay. When is it time to panic? If you're gonna say, well, we're not gonna panic, okay, then when are you gonna panic? How bad does it have to be for you to panic? Or are you never going to panic? And I think that translates to kind of what you see out there on the floor. This team's not playing like a team that's 10-16, fighting for their season. Right now, this team is fighting for their season because they're 10-16 in the Western Conference. But it's like that's not apparent to them. So yeah, you don't want your team to panic at every little sign of adversity, but
Right.
it's time to play with more urgency. It's time to play like the season's on the line, because it kind of is already in a way. You gotta start picking up wins. We're 6 games under 500. You can't keep this going on that much longer.
And it's tough. Like, I don't know if Dame and CJ are the problem right now, but, like, we can't have them play poorly either when our bench is this bad, when we have this many injuries. Like, they have to have great games for us to win. And so, like, it's magnified when they don't, and fans think, like, oh, we're not winning right now because our superstars aren't bringing it. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like, we should be able to win games without those guys going ballistic, but it's just tough when they don't. Like, we're not going to win many games.
I mean, the top two players on our team, like CJ and Dame, are playing like the best two players on our team lately. You know what I mean? They're giving us.
Well, Whiteside's playing pretty good.
Whiteside's playing pretty good, but I've seen this narrative about how our stars aren't doing enough. The problem isn't with the top two players on our team. They're giving us. They're the two players giving us the most positive production. Okay. So, I see some people saying, "Oh, well, it's not enough positive production." Well, there's so many negative areas to look at that I don't see how people can nitpick our stars and say they're not giving us enough positive production, because I've seen people complain about Dame not taking 30 shots a game, not being like Harden, not being like, not getting 12, 15 free throws a game. Like, I've seen people just nitpicking our stars. CJ McCollum has been playing really, really solidly lately. It kind of struggled a little bit last night, I think, but had a couple people in this chat come in and diss CJ McCollum. I put a user in timeout for saying, "Oh, I told you about CJ McBum." Like, no, that just comes across as hate. CJ plays zero defense. CJ's actually been at least average defensively this year. Real plus minus, which is an advanced stat, you might not think it's a good advanced stat, but it actually has him as an above average defender. That's the thing. Our stars have not been the problem. There's so many fundamental areas of basketball that you can point to as a problem. The fact that people want to nitpick our stars is ridiculous, and it's wrong. It's just simply wrong.
And Darren points out that's frustrating times, not consistently.
Can you?
And that's the big problem I have too is that
we hit a lag spike. Can you restart that? We had a lag spike when you started talking.
So Darren Crimmett said, what's frustrating me is I've seen them move the ball well at times, but not consistently at all. And that's the frustrating part to me as well, is that like we've seen glimpses of this team being able to do nice things, and it's just like where is that? Like a game last night, where was the ball movement? It's just frustrating that it's not happening.
I mean, yeah, and it just sucks because we got to rehash the same points, over and over and over again, man.
One thing we haven't really talked about much is the bench. The bench has been really bad, especially since Bazemore's had to go into the starting lineup, and then Hazonia is back in the rotation again. Little was out last night, so that hurts. But
yeah,
this is why it's so important to, I think, to use that injury exception that we applied for today. So for those that don't know, if the player is hurt for the year and the NBA deems that they're going to be out past June 15th, which is the last game of the finals, then you can apply for a disabled player exception, and it's good for half their salary or the mid-level exception, whichever is less, or the tax mid-level exception. So in our case, it's about $2.86 million. And we can use that to either sign anyone or trade for anyone that is on their last year of their contract. So if a player still has 2 or 3 years left on their deal, we can't trade for them because they would still be on the team theoretically when Hood is ready to come back. But
yeah,
I think we have both an open roster spot now and the disabled player exception. So we can add 2 players to this team right now. So a guy that was just waived by Brooklyn is Amon Shumpert, and his offensive numbers have been terrible this year. And I don't know if
that's putting it mildly,
if he's
too.
better than Hazonia, but he did have some good games, and he was a big part of their defensive scheme. But yeah, like we just need players, whether it's Shumpert or someone else, like whether Fareed comes back from China now that he's been waived and we sign him, he would really help us out with our energy on the boards if he's healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have the ability, like even let's just say in theory it's Shumpert and Fareed. That's adding 2 players at the back end of our rotation for our bench that are better than what we're putting out there at the moment. And that could kind of give us a lift there. So I hope very soon that starting Sunday, people can trade. So we have 2 more days until that December 15th deadline where players can start trading or teams can start trading players that sign in the offseason. So hoping in the next few days we start to see some movement on that and they don't just try to make it work with this roster as is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This team needs to decide where it wants this season. Like, how Neil Olshey needs to decide how hard he's going to pursue success this season. Yeah, is he just going to say, okay, last season we're just going to sit on our hands and wait until next year? Or is it something where it's like, okay, we can still make a run in the playoffs and still make a move? He did have an interview, but I don't think that's a ton of insight because some of it might have been misdirection. Some of it might have been said to make sure relationships between players and the organization stayed in a good spot. Like, I don't know. Like, in the end, Olshey is going to have to decide where he wants the season to go. Is he going to trade for a upgrade? Is he not going to trade for an upgrade? He has to do something. But if he decides that he wants this season to go to go better if he wants this season to end up with the Blazers possibly making a run in the playoffs, and that has to start now because our bench is so bad right now. We have to shore it up, even if it's a small move, even if it's going out and trading for a guy like Glenn Robinson, even if it's going out and signing a Kenneth Faried. Like, if Olshey thinks that he might decide that, okay, we should make a win now trade at the deadline, then he has to make a precursor to that move soon in order to shore up our bench, because if we don't shore up our bench, I'm worried that we're not going to be in a position to even make a playoff run, even if we want to go out and get a star. So Olshey has to do something and shore up this bench problem, because you had 3 of 4 players off the bench going scoreless last night. The only guy who scored was the 20-year-old who dropped 9 points. That's Anthony. You had Hazonia scoreless. You had Scal scoreless, which Scal's shooting at F2. The thing is, I don't think Scal's a solid bench player. I think Simons, if he's shooting the ball well, and Scal are both solid bench players. You know, Simon's defense has been a big area of problem, but like in a sixth man, you know, you're not really like harping too much on defense. You just need a guy that can come in and provide an offensive spark. So if Simon's shot's falling, I think he's a solid player alongside Scal. I don't think that's a terrible start. Those guys are probably better as 8th and 9th men, not 6th and 7th men, which they are right now. I think Scal is not being utilized well enough. That's kind of the problem with Scal. He's just not looking to shoot. And he has a good shot, and he has, you know, a solid hook shot and that type of thing. He's just not getting the ball in areas where he can shoot. And then when he actually is, he's not really looking to shoot. So it's like a confidence thing or something with him, but I don't see the coaching staff encouraging him to shoot like they'd yell at Myers Leonard to shoot. You know, obviously Leonard's a better shooter, but Scal's solid. So we just need guys that can score and score off the bench right now, because Hazonia, that dude is not a scorer, super inefficient. Who's the 9th guy that played last night? Trent? Yeah, Gary Trent Jr. played like 5 minutes or something, and he's not providing anything. So we're relying too heavily on our starters right now.
So I think if I can kind of figure out what you're saying, is that we need to sign Jamal Crawford.
Hell no. Hell no.
You said we needed scoring off the bench.
Yeah, we need a scorer that can shoot at least 40% from the field. How about that? Because Jamal Crawford is not shooting 40% from the field when he comes back. If he comes back, I don't think he'll ever get a spot on a team again. We also need guys that have a chance defensively. Jamal Crawford doesn't do that. I don't know. Jamal Crawford, I see a lot of people saying we should sign Jamal Crawford. Somebody should sign Jamal Crawford. Look at Melo. You got signed. Melo is a much, much better player than Jamal Crawford at this point. Jamal Crawford, I think, is even older than Melo, and he was just super, super inefficient last year. He's literally a guy who struggles to do anything but score, but even his scoring isn't that good because it's super inefficient. So Jamal Crawford is not a good option whatsoever. I'd rather have Iman Shumpert than Jamal Crawford, to be honest. And I'm not a huge fan of the Iman Shumpert pickup either, because he's super, super, super inefficient. Like, literally, basically a non-factor on offense. He is a solid defender, but we need guys that can actually put some points on the board on that bench unit. I don't think Shumpert really gets that done.
And I'm seeing a lot of talk about Seth Curry in the chat. So Seth Curry signed with Dallas for more than we could have offered him.
Yeah.
We did not have his bird rights, so there was no way to keep him. The most we could have offered him was the $5.7 million that we offered to Hood. So if you offer that to Seth, then you couldn't have kept Hood either. So, yeah, now that Hood's hurt, it would be nice to have Curry, but I would pick Hood every time over Seth right now.
Yeah, and that would be assuming that we could have brought back Seth for $5.7 million, which I don't think we could have, because he got a 4-year contract
for $32 million.
Like that's averaging $8 million a year. So he got paid more than we could have offered, and it was Dallas, a place he had been before. I don't think that Seth was really loyal to the spot. So like I saw last night, somebody said that Seth dropped 30. It's like, okay, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't tell if he was saying it as like, oh, we should have kept Seth Curry or something, but we didn't really have the option to keep Seth Curry. And Hood was killing it. Hood had been the better player than Seth Curry this year anyway, so even if we could have kept Seth Curry, it was still the better move to keep Rodney Hood because we could only pick one of those two.
And I mean, it sucks that Hood got hurt, but if you think this season is a wash, the way they're playing, I mean, it's going to work out getting him cheaper next year, most likely, to stay probably on his player option. It was probably going to cost us like $10 million a year for a more long-term contract if we signed him. So now he'll probably opt into his $6 million contract, and we get another year of him at cheap. And then we'd have full bird rights on him that following year. So, yeah, I think it'll work out in the future. It just sucks that he got injured, so this is even a conversation. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah, 100%, man. So we'll take your guys' questions. Any other questions you guys have, that's what we'll wrap up this podcast with. As I said, keeping it a bit shorter, just because we had a post-game stream last night. We had our podcast streaming on Wednesday. We've basically streamed every day this week. So that's why it's kind of like, okay, I don't know what fresh stuff we can go over. Monday, we won't have a game between now and Monday, so we'll actually plan some fresh things to talk about for Monday. It might be the draft. It might be possible trades around the league. We'll have a good Monday podcast for you guys. That'll be before we take on the Suns in Phoenix, and then we'll have our post-game stream after that.
After Sunday, there might be a lot of activity around the NBA.
True. We might have
The
actual
floodgates.
trades. Yeah, we might have actual trades to talk about. So that would be exciting, man. I love NBA trades. I'm ready to get into trade season. I want to do like mock drafts. I've been kind of building graphics to do like a mock draft video. I've been doing some behind the scenes stuff to kind of improve some things that you guys haven't seen yet. That's why I've been like on the videos as of late. I know I always give a reason for that, but I've been working on a cool like mock draft thing. I want to start putting out mock drafts like every week or two, and maybe covering the general NBA a little bit more, since the thing is, covering the Blazers, for as much as we stream, as much content as we make, like, it ends up with kind of us rehashing the same points. So instead of rehashing the same points as much, it'd be cool to start talking about fresh things, even if it's not Blazer related, if it's NBA related, if it's even college basketball related. This isn't necessarily strictly a Blazers podcast. Obviously, it's Blazers focused, but definitely want to broaden things a little bit more, if that's what you guys want. If you guys don't want that, then let me know. You know, I want to give you guys content that you guys want, that you guys like. I just think that would be the best thing for the channel. I think that'd be the best thing for viewers. I don't know, but it's up to you guys. We definitely want feedback on that.
So if you ever want this, I went through and got a list of like every player that's available for the Hood exception if we get it granted.
Oh, that's dope. Like every player, or just like good?
I mean, there's a few players I didn't list, yeah, but I put pretty much anyone who qualified on here.
Yeah, we can whittle that down to like players that we think could be gettable and are good options for the Blazers. And that could be something we talk about on Monday. We could whittle down that list, because I'm pretty sure the Blazers aren't going to be interested in Chimezie Metu. Or a guy like that. Chat's like, who? Exactly. So whittle that down.
There's a few interesting names on here.
Oh, I bet. You know, you look at a guy like Glenn Robinson. Are you doing minimum guys too? Because minimum guys who could bring in via trade straight up.
Yeah, I pretty much just put them on the list if they qualified.
Yeah, so like maybe like guys that are on minimum contracts but below that $2.8 million. That's not a lot of guys, but since we can trade for minimum contracts, we don't need to use the disabled player exception for a minimum contract.
Well, I mentioned one guy on Twitter today who we played last night and he didn't play at all, and that's
who's that?
Malik Beasley.
Oh yeah, he's kind of ended up in the doghouse there. I think the Nuggets drafted him with the pick we traded them
Yeah,
for a Flalo,
exactly.
which
Yep, the
so that'd be
19th
interesting to
pick.
get him back. Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't know if they'd be willing to trade him.
I heard a rumor that they were listening to offers for him. But yeah,
I feel like they'd expect a first round pick.
yeah. And
Um,
he's a restricted free agent. He turned down a 3 or 30 million extension this year, so um,
that's interesting. I mean, and the thing is, with Portland, who knows if Denver would want to make that trade with a divisional rival? That's
yeah. See, that's
the
what I
one
was thinking
problem there.
too. They don't want to be the reason our season turns around, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they were
and
already once a few years ago when they traded us Nurk and a first round pick. So
yeah. Before people say, "Oh, well, you're talking about a trade with Minnesota for Covington and Jang being realistic. They're in our division as well." That's the thing. A trade for like Covington would be in the case that Minnesota is not in playoff positioning and would be kind of like not trying to compete this year. The thing is, a team like Denver, they're going to be trying to compete this year, so it's more questionable whether they'd be willing to trade Malik Beasley to a divisional rival that they couldn't end up seeing in the playoffs yet again this year. So that is something to remember with trades between Western Conference teams. It'll be interesting to see if he does get moved. That is definitely a guy that I go out there and get just as a wing to hold us over with Rodney Hood being out. Maybe you still start Bazemore, bring Beasley off the bench, but like Beasley's a guy who can score a bit. He'd be such a huge upgrade over a guy like Hazonia.
yeah,
And he's not even playing for Denver right now. That's the thing.
he's a career 39% 3-point shooter too.
Yeah. I mean, a guy like that, guy like Glenn Robinson, who's shooting 39% from the three-point line this year and getting 12 points per game, like, they're not the flashiest names at all, but they'd be a huge help for this team. So hopefully we see something December 15th. Hopefully we see something to help our bench in a way. Maybe it would help our starting lineup and send Bazemore back to the bench, which would be better than Hazonia. We just need to add somebody on that wing position, and preferably a small forward, because we kind of can wait on power forward. We have Little, who like Stott sees as a power forward. We have Mello. Scow has been playing a little bit with Hassan Whiteside. Scow's been playing a little bit of power forward. So I don't think, while we can stand to definitely upgrade power forward, as much as small forward, I do think we need something as small forward a little bit more than power forward at this moment.
I agree.
Because we just don't got like those medium-sized wings, man. Even Bazemore, he's 6'4", without shoes. 6'5" with shoes. Like he's
got a decent wingspan, but
yeah, he has a super long wingspan, which makes up for it. But like he's not like considered like a big wing. We don't really have any like decently sized small forwards. The only one that I can really think of is Mario Hazonia, who's absolute hot trash. Sorry Mario, but that dude should go play in Europe, where he's from, and Mario's the type of guy that would be really, really good in Europe. Just because he would actually have the speed to be able to like blow by guys and make plays going downhill. The thing is, his athleticism doesn't really stand out in the NBA, and he's a guy who needs his athleticism to stand out in order to be a decent player, if that makes sense. Mario would be a good European player. I think he would probably be happy playing in Europe too. Getting minutes, that type of thing. People think of EuroLeague as a bad thing, but yeah, that's our only big small forward on the roster.
Yeah.
That's something that's going to have to change. The thing is, I say that Malik Beasley isn't big.
Yeah, I know.
But
I mean,
still, we need something.
Yeah.
That was a long-winded way of saying that. We need something at small forward.
Tommy Thompson's been on the Bruno Caboclo train all year.
Let's see what Caboclo's doing this year. Let's look up his stats because I haven't kept up with Bruno. I'll read off his stats for you guys. All right, points per game, 3.9 points per game, 2.5 or 2.3 rebounds, half an assist per game. That's in 10 minutes per game for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's shooting 44% from the field and 20% from three. He's a career 33% three-point shooter.
How many games?
40% from the field. This year, 15.
Okay.
Let's look at his true shooting percentage is 48%. He has a good defensive box plus minus, but he's never really been seen as like a good defender. That's not a guy who's proven. That's not a guy who I'm not sure he'd step in and be that much better than Mario. We need a guy who's proven. We need a guy who's done it before. We need it like Malik Beasley did it for a season. You know what I mean? But he was young. You know what I mean? That's part of his progression. Caboclo's never really done it. Hazonia's never really done it. That's why I didn't like relying on Hazonia. That's why I made that video before the season. So Malik Beasley, he's done it. Glenn Robinson, he's doing it this season. 12 points per game, 45% from the field, 39% from three. Like, we need a guy like that.
And the fake Terry's Thoughts comment in chat is exactly why we should trade Hazonia as soon as possible. He says, Mario is underrated, y'all. He just needs to get in his flow in our system.
Get in his flow. And
Thoughts is going to keep
I thought
doing
your
the
system
minutes.
I thought your system provides the flow, though, Stotts. Where's the flow? Where's the flow, man? I don't see no flow. I see a clogged drain. Nurkin Hazonia countrymen, yeah, which is it's cool. They were childhood friends and whatnot, but I'm not a Blazer fan, so that Blazer players can reunite with their childhood friends. That's all I have to say on that one. Anyway, Terry Stotts not hitting our good looks. You sound like Terry Stotts. I'll give you props on that one. That's a good reenactment right there.
Yeah, we had Neil Olshey in our chat last night, but he wasn't obviously Neil Olshey because he wasn't saying "look" before every time we chat.
Exactly, and I didn't hear a bifurcate drop. But yeah, no, I mean it's, for Terry Stotts, hey Terry, you guys shot a lot of shots from half court tonight. Don't you think you could get a little better shot selection? Well, the game is about making shots. We just didn't make shots. We got shots. We got clean looks. We just got to start making shots. We just didn't make shots. And in this league, when you don't make shots and the other team makes more shots than you do, then you're going to lose some games. But Terry, don't you think you missed shots because you shot shots from half court? Well, and then he gets pissed at the reporter because he's asking him a tough to answer question. And all right, wrap up the post game conference. All right, post game conference done. That is Terry Stotts in a nutshell.
The shots will fall. That's the game of basketball, fellas.
Dude, that's classic. That's classic Stotts quote there. But anyway, let me know what content you guys want to see. Also, why not give Kenneth Faried a look? I have made a video on Kenneth Faried. I do like the idea of Kenneth Faried. We need a guy who rebounds. We need a guy who hustles, provides a spark of energy. So I'd be on board the Kenneth Faried train. I've made a video on that in the past if you want my opinion on it. But I made it about a month ago, I think. So
Necron99, aka Sammy Boy, says, how about doing old drafts on here? Might be fun to do some redrafts sometime.
That'd be cool. That'd be a cool podcast segment for when we don't. We should probably start planning them out a little bit more. Sometimes, okay, here's the thing that I struggle with. I kind of like freestyling podcasts when we have like a few things that we know we're going to talk about when we have some fresh content. On the day after a game where we did a post-game stream last night, it's kind of like a little bit more difficult. I feel like those are the streams where we should plan out things like maybe a redraft, something like that, and then we could do it live. Like, I don't know. Things like that. Those are the podcasts to do it. Some podcasts I feel like are good to just kind of freestyle, go off the top of our head and just see what happens as it comes along. Part of that is it being live, so like we integrate chat into what we talk about, so that's why it's good to like freestyle it, so that we're just kind of going along with chat and seeing where the podcast goes. But definitely would like to do some cool segments, keep things fresh for you guys. If there's any other content you guys want to see, different content than what we've been doing, let us know. It can be a video, it can be a podcast segment, it can be something like that. But definitely want to keep you guys entertained, especially when the Blazers are struggling. Want to keep you engaged and enjoying the content we're putting out. So just let us know if you have any content suggestions or ideas for stuff you'd want to see. You can leave them, in the podcast chat, in the live chat. You can leave them in a comment on a video. Just anywhere where we could see it. You could tweet it at us, anything like that. Might brainstorm for a bit. Later this weekend, because I definitely want to keep you guys keep things fresh for you guys. Alvaro Bazan says, have you thought about trading for Alize Johnson from the Pacers? His contract is $1.42 million. He's a career 50% from three. He's scoring roughly 13 points per game as a power forward. Is that 13 points per game in the G League? I was a huge Alize Johnson fan when he came into the draft. I still think he's a guy that, if he got a chance, has the potential to be a helpful player. He's only averaging 1.6 points per game right now. I think you might have meant per 36 minutes he's averaging 13. Yeah, he's averaging 13 and 12 with 2 assists per 36 minutes on 45% shooting, but he's only played 8 games and he's only playing 4.5 minutes per game. Only played 4.5 minutes per game for his career in 22 games, so literally that's not a large enough sample size to base anything off of what he's done in the NBA.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to base it on okay, what have you seen from him in college? How does he look? It's more just kind of long-term guessing on his potential, if he was able to get a role. But he was a good rebounder in college. He's a guy who could rebound the ball, and he can handle the ball a little bit, can play make a little bit if given the opportunity. That's the thing. We talked about Hezonja coming in and being a point forward. I think Alize Johnson is more built for that role than Mario Hezonja, just from what I saw in college and the draft combine watching Alize Johnson, because I was an Alize Johnson fan. You can't base anything off what he's done, but in terms of scouting him, I like what I see.
He's one of my guys on my list, but I think those type of moves would be if you're punting on this year and trying to develop players. And if you use the 2 spots that we have available for guys like that, it's going to be because we're trying to find some diamonds in the rough for the future, and we're not really focused on getting back in the playoff race. Because he's literally done nothing in the NBA to warrant bringing him in and entering him into the rotation right now.
I don't agree with you, because we're playing Hezonja and Nasir Little right now.
I'm saying
I could see Neil Olshey seeing looking at Alize Johnson and thinking, okay, I think that guy could help us more than Nasir Little and Mario Hezonja. Obviously that wouldn't be plan A, that'd be more like plan H. But I could see, realistically, I could see a GM, and this is my opinion personally, I think he could come in and maybe have a more positive impact than Hezonja and Nasir Little, and I think he can play either forward spots. So I feel like bringing him in, it doesn't necessarily mean you would be punting this season, because I feel like he could be a little bit of an upgrade, even though he hasn't proven anything. This is just based on what I've seen of him draft combine, playing in college, that type of thing.
But to think a guy like that's going to come in and do anything to help a team that's trying to get back into the playoff picture is just more hopeful future things. We have a lot of young guys on our roster already, and there's what I'm not saying he couldn't be better than Tolliver and Hezonja. That's not very hard to do at this point. But what I'm trying to say is that if we made a move like that instead of a Glenn Robinson or a player that could actually help the rotation immediately, we know for sure. Those kind of moves would signify to me that we don't really care about fixing the bench this season.
As I said, that would be more like a plan H, or maybe lower down the list. You know what I mean? Because Glenn Robinson would be higher on that pecking order. You'd have more proven targets, obviously, over Alize Johnson. I just think, like, if you strike out on a bunch of guys, I could see you coming to Alize Johnson being like, okay, I like this dude's long-term upside. I also think he could maybe help us more than a Nasir Little or a Mario Hezonja. So let's go out and try and get him. I mean, you look at Miami this year, man. That's a playoff team who is starting Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson, two undrafted players that were undrafted 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically their second season. Kendrick Nunn didn't play last year. I think he was on a roster for a bit, didn't play. So Kendrick Nunn is technically a undrafted rookie. I mean, like, obviously those players are rare, and obviously Miami did a great job finding diamonds in the rough. That's two diamonds in the rough from the same draft class that didn't get drafted, Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn. But I don't think it's like it's a crazy thing to think that, okay, a guy drafted late in the second round could possibly come in and with like his tool set possibly be a little bit of a revelation and have a positive impact, because that's a guy who I think is can be a good defender. I think that's a guy who can handle the ball a little bit. I think, remains to be seen if he can consistently knock down threes at an NBA level. But I just, like, I look at a guy like that and I feel like, okay, if that guy has a chance, I feel like that guy could possibly be a really, really solid role player.
Yeah, I get that, but having a chance to be a solid role player is completely different than being traded to a team midseason, to a team that doesn't seem to want to give guys like that a realistic chance of succeeding in those roles. I mean, we'd trade for him, and Stotts wouldn't change the rotation even if he was better than Hezonja. So
you don't know that though, because that's the thing. Stotts played Little over Hezonja. Little wasn't supposed to play this year. Little is a rookie, so
he played him for a few games. And now he's back down in the low teens for minutes. So.
I mean, yeah, but it's like, it's such horrible options that if we got a guy like Alize Johnson, he was better than those guys. I don't think he necessarily wouldn't get a chance. And if he takes his chance and he plays better than those guys, I think he'll continue to get a chance. I mean, that's impossible to predict how Terry would handle that. And the thing is, it would barely take anything to get a guy like Alize Johnson. So, I mean, even if he doesn't play, then okay, long-term upside, maybe that dude isn't a replacement. I'm just saying that guy, I think, has a chance to possibly be a decent upgrade over a Nasir Little and a Mario Hezonja. So, it wouldn't be a bad move to go out there and get him if he's available.
I mean, we already had a couple of games this season where Scal was playing well and he got taken out in the fourth quarter. And we lost a couple of games earlier in the season because of that.
Yeah, but if you're gonna sit here and argue, okay, well, who knows how Stotts would handle that? Like, I mean, you could make that case. You could make that case with any upgrade. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, he's more unproven, so maybe Stotts wouldn't play him. But I mean, attacking, I don't. I'm not. We don't know how Terry Stotts would handle that, and I think if he was the better player, Terry Stotts would play him. The thing is, I think Little is definitely better than Hezonja, but it's not like Little is playing good basketball. I mean, you look at his offensive numbers, the dude is not much of a help offensively. He's still, he's a hustle guy. He's literally a hustle guy who's I don't think Little's even good defensively yet. He has the potential to be good. I like some of the things I see, but, I don't think Little is really, he's not good yet. He's not, I don't even think Little is an average ninth man yet. You know what I mean? He's a raw prospect who's had to be thrown in there. Blazer fans love him because he provides energy, provides a bit of a spark. They love seeing the rookie that plays hard play. It was kind of the same way with Caleb Swanigan for a stretch, Swanigan's rookie season. But that doesn't mean that, that Little is playing good. So, we talk about, okay, Little, he's kind of getting shuffled back to the bench. It's not like Terry Stotts is shuffling a guy who's playing even average NBA basketball for a ninth man back to the bench. He's basically shuffling a raw prospect who he's basically a 12th man on an NBA roster, in my opinion. That's what Nasir Little is. So it's not, I don't know.
But yeah, you're also projecting a guy like Johnson to come in and be better than that, which I mean,
he's a lot more refined player, I think, at this point. He's 23. Little's 19. I don't think he's anywhere near as raw as Little. I think he has a better tool set than Little. He's not anywhere near as raw of a prospect.
But he's still a prospect. It's not. It's.
I mean, yeah, but Hazonia is technically still a prospect because you want Hazonia to come in and try and. Like, we didn't bring in Hazonia based on anything Hazonia did in his career. Yeah, I know he was in year 5, but he was literally trash his first 4 years. So we were bringing in a guy and trying to say, okay, hopefully this guy is able to fulfill some of his potential. Just like we've been doing with Alize Johnson. It's literally just looking at the difference in years they've been around. Hazonia's more proven to be trash than Alize Johnson.
But we didn't have injuries to Collins and Hood when we signed Hazonia. We thought we were a championship team and he was going to be like maybe the 9th or 10th man, like we were saying Little is right now.
His name is Alize Johnson, not Alize or whatever you think I'm saying. His name is Alize Johnson. Played at, what was it, like Southeast Missouri State or something. But no, you're arguing for not making a move because Stotts might not play him.
I didn't really say not to make the move. I'm saying if we brought in a guy like Alize Johnson instead of Fareed, that signifies to me that we are basically going for future prospect versus trying to win games right now.
Maybe Olshey thinks Johnson could be just as good as Fareed because
and that's fine.
Fareed's a rebounder and like an okay defender, and he's like an elite rebounder, and he's an energy guy. Johnson could be a really, really good rebounder. Like he's
or he could be a terrible scrub. Like hasn't done anything in the NBA. So
yeah, but I mean, like, I'm just saying, man, Alize Johnson has a good tool set. He has more long-term potential than Kenneth Fareed. If Terry Stott or if Neil Olshey was looking at a guy like in Alize Johnson and thinking like, okay, I think this dude could be just as good as Fareed, but he could possibly be a part of our long-term future. And he'd provide a little bit more versatility in terms of his play style than Fareed would. Olshey loves his big wing off the bench that can handle the ball. So if you're looking at a guy to replace a Hazonia, what Hazonia was supposed to be in terms of a point forward, Alize Johnson has that skill set. Kenneth Fareed does not. Olshey doesn't like getting raw bigs to play next to other like generic bigs, like Scott Labissiere has barely played any power forward. Like Olshey would probably be out there looking for a power forward. I'm not sure he even views Kenneth Fareed as that.
I'm not saying that he couldn't be better in the future than Fareed would be. I'm saying if we go after a player that's a diamond in the rough type of player versus a person who has proven to have an elite skill in the NBA, or someone that could be available, like even say like a Vince Carter or something that could actually be for sure what he's going to give you when you trade for him. I'm saying like those kind of moves to me signify that they're not really concerned about the bench this season. They're hoping to develop a player for the future. I'm not saying that's right or wrong to do. And in fact, the way the season's going, I almost prefer that they think about the future and not just this season. So doing a trade like you're suggesting might be the best move. But I'm saying like if that's the type of move they make, it just signifies to me that they're not trying this season to turn things around or to shore up a weakness for this season.
But getting the 43-year-old who's shooting 37% from the field and 29% from three would signify to you that they were trying to turn around the season?
I'm just saying the looks of the trade seem like they're trying to do something versus punting on the season.
I don't disagree that it would be like a cute move in terms of like, playing it cute, playing it like, dude is improving. Dude might completely bomb out. But I feel like we've made moves like this before, banking on guys' upside to try and help the team contend before. So I don't see why we wouldn't do it with a guy like an Alize Johnson. So I disagree with you on that. But
we've never been in a position where we're making trades on a contending team until last season.
I mean, I just disagree with that. But Satoransky got mentioned, which I think could actually, that's a target I haven't thought about. That could actually be a good trade target. He's on a 3-year contract, $10 million a year, but we need a small forward. Olshey and Stott seem to like a point forward, like a big wing that can handle the ball and make plays. Satoransky would fit that because Satoransky is 6'7", but he's a guy who's getting 5.5 assists in 27 minutes per game for the Chicago Bulls. He's 28 years old, so he's a veteran. So the Bulls, might be willing to trade him as they rebuild. But in 27 minutes per game, 5.5 assists for a guy who is 6'7". That's good, and he can shoot the 3 ball as well. It's not like an Evan Turner situation. He's a 40% 3-point shooter for his career. Satoransky's one of the most underrated players in the league, I think. He's decently efficient, 58. He's actually really efficient, 58 true shooting percentage for his career, can pass the ball. Defensive box plus minus isn't the best gauge for defense, but he's at a positive defensive box plus minus this year at 0.2. Probably not a good defender, but I don't know if he's bad. That would definitely be a good target to go out there and get. Maybe a target that we could get December 15th because he ended up signing this past offseason. What do you think about Satoransky?
The problem is he's in that $10 million contract range where it's hard for us to get there. Would you do Bazemore and a second for Satoransky and Felicia?
I don't know if we'd even have to give up the second if we're taking on Felicia, if we're saving them $18 million next summer, but I would definitely think about doing something like that because I think Satoransky would be a really, really good fit for this team. I think he'd really help our bench out. He's just an all-around very, very solid player. And Felicia would give us an $8 million expiring contract going into the summer to possibly throw around in trades. His contract becomes less of a negative value. It's more of a negative value this summer than it would be at the trade deadline next year. But, an $8 million expiring contract at the trade deadline next year could be helpful depending on what else is on the roster.
Yeah.
I would prefer to not trade Bazemore though, because we need small forwards. So if we trade Bazemore, I would like to get another small forward back, maybe a Denzel Valentine. And Denzel Valentine fits under that Rodney Hood disabled player exception, right?
No, he doesn't. He makes 3.1 if I remember correctly.
Oh, that was close. Yeah. Damn. But I don't know. Maybe I think that would still match salary. So maybe you could do Bazemore for Satoransky, Felicio, and Denzel Valentine. And Valentine's been hurt. Didn't play last season at all because he was hurt. Hasn't played much this season, but maybe that's the guy who could hold you over at small forward. Or you don't include Denzel Valentine, you go make another move out there for a Glenn Robinson or something. But I think Satoransky is a noticeably better player than Kent Bazemore. Not a better defender, but better at everything else. Much better 3-point shooter, much better decision maker, much, much, much better playmaker. And Olshey and Stotts, love that point forward. They had Evan Turner, got rid of Evan Turner to get Bazemore, and then tried to bring in Hazonia to be that big point forward. That didn't work out. So Satoransky would kind of fit their MO.
Yeah, I do like Satoransky on the bench with Simon, handling the ball a little more and letting Simon play more of the shooting guard, take a little pressure off of him. It's not bad. Hopefully, I still prefer the Covington and Jang.
There's better options out there. I just think that's a realistic option that I hadn't thought about that would kind of fit what the Blazers like.
And then two with the Bulls, as of last night, they were only a game worse than us. So are they happy with the way their team is playing lately? And are they happy with Sadaransky since they just signed him this offseason? So it's kind of tough to know what their mindset is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, they've been rumored to possibly be moving on from their front office, and then they could, like, kind of pivot there.
Because that's why I mentioned taking Felicio on, because...
yeah, because that would definitely help that trade happen.
Yeah.
But I think they'll trade one of Sadaransky or Otto Porter Jr. They already have, like, a lot of point guards. That's the thing. Sadaransky can be considered point guard, shooting guard, or small forward. Some people are saying he's too skinny to play small forward. He weighs 210 pounds. I mean, that's not horrible, and we're not really in a position to nitpick. Like, the guy is 6'7". We're not in a position to really nitpick.
Oh, that's pretty skinny.
This guy doesn't weigh enough for us, so he can't be our small forward. We're playing Mario Hezonja there right now, so I'd take Sadaransky with his weight issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's just an interesting target. I forget what you asked me before that.
No, I didn't really ask you anything. I just
you said
was saying I prefer the
say,
Covington and
Jang.
Yeah.
I had forgotten what I was going to say. What I was going to say is I think that Chicago will trade Otto Porter Jr. or Sadaransky. Both are good fits for us. They're different kinds of players, but they both fit what we need in certain roles. So I definitely pay attention to what Chicago is doing, because I think they trade one of Sadaransky or Otto Porter Jr., and those are both guys I'd love to go get.
Yeah, I agree.
Dude, I just shout out to whoever dropped Sadaransky. I forget who dropped his name. I'm trying to find it.
Tommy Thompson.
Yeah, shout out Tommy Thompson for dropping Sadaransky, because it's rare that somebody drops like a good trade target like that we haven't thought of, but that's one of them. So shout out to Tommy Thompson for that.
Someone else mentioned him in chat, but I don't know if it was him.
Because that's a good trade target that we haven't thought of. So if anybody else has one, I think it's hard to find good trade targets that we haven't like talked about yet. That especially that fit a role, and especially that are in a situation where they might end up getting traded this year. So that was phenomenal, man. Anyway,
all right.
We're gonna wrap up this podcast. We'll catch you guys on Monday. Should have a mailbag out this weekend. I've just kind of we streamed every day this week, so it's kind of hard to find time to do a mailbag. Won't be streaming Saturday or Sunday, so I'll do a mailbag. I'll also get Eric set up to do a trade talk video. I posted that prompt a while ago, and Eric just got his laptop a couple days ago, so I'll set him up in order to get going on that, because I know you want to do that. Yeah, look at that excitement, man. Assuming you still want to do it.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, no, you did.
Anyway. That's my goal this weekend. I'm going to do my first video, and
I'm excited to see how it turns out, man.
Since we don't have any games this weekend, I can focus on that.
Yeah, I figured that was good timing. Good timing. No streams, no games. Saturday, Sunday. You don't go into work on Saturday or Sunday, do you?
Oh yeah, I work, but not at night. I can do it at night.
Yeah, you work out. All right. Well, we'll catch you guys later. With mailbag video coming out. I don't know when that trade talk video will come out. I'll be working with Eric just to get him rolling on that, because he's a rookie in terms of making videos. He's becoming a streaming veteran. He's a streaming veteran at this point, but he's a video making noob at this point. So I gotta mentor him. I gotta coach him up. Hopefully I don't do a bad coaching job. Hopefully I'm not a Terry Stotts with this. We'll see how this goes though. So anyway, thank you to everybody who tuned in to watch this podcast, whether it's live, whether you're watching this after it's been live, whether you're watching this on a replay. Thank you guys for all the support you give this channel. Me and Eric, we greatly appreciate it. We'll catch you guys later, and as always, this has been Tori. Peace out. My mic's falling. It's time to go. All right, peace out.